Hi, interestingly, I'm so happy to be with you today. I wouldn't lie to you, like, it's really been one hell of a month, from the presidential elections which took place in February 25 in Nigeria to the gubernatorial elections that took place on March 18. The same, so there's been a flurry of activities within the country, and I must tell you, if you're on my YouTube channel, you would have actually seen the live coverage of the 2023 general elections, both presidential, gubernatorial, state house of assembly, and I would tell you that it was quite an experience. All right, welcome to EstiQ Media channel right here on YouTube, and I would always like to tell you that if you haven't subscribed, please kindly do, and actually share and make referrals. Also, we're on Spotify. Okay, so it's very easy. If you have an Android device, mobile device, you can actually go to your Apple Play Store or your Google Play Store, download Spotify, just go into EstiQ Media Podcast. All right, EstiQ, EstiQ Media Podcast. There are several segments and several contents that ranges on different capacities, different areas that especially if you're a content creator, you would love it. It's almost like radio on the go. Radio on the go, from food port to health tips to news reports, special reports, interview segments, interview sessions where we get to have conversations with individuals that has to do with politics, has to do with lifestyle, relationship, and we also conduct tutorials there as well. There are spoken words too, so you can actually listen to them and read them. Actually, you can see the details of all of that on the website, EstiQ Media website as well. So we're trying to go places, we're trying to help ourselves, we're trying to make ourselves better. So on EstiQ Media, that is today on our YouTube channel, I want us to look at something very important. Now, for you to think of how to address people proportionately, adequately, you need to have what they call transitional words or transitional phrases. They're very important because, for example, if you're a public speaker in whatever capacity it is, you don't necessarily have to be a media practitioner or someone who is in the media space to address the public. For example, you could be a pastor, you could be a teacher, you could be someone that conducts seminars from one organization to another. You could actually be a marketer too, and sometimes you want to talk about your product or your brand to prospective clients and investors. You need the power of conviction. Power of conviction comes with the words that you use, how you let your client see the potential of the product or the brand you're trying to sell to them, the virility of the brand and the product as well. So you need to be convincing in the way you passionately describe the importance of the brand or the product. So you need to know transitional words and phrases. They're not meant to make you sound intelligent, but it helps one understand that, okay, this person knows where they're coming from and they know how to go about it. All right. So I will define what transitional words and phrases are once again. Now, transitional words are like bridges, especially, for example, if you're a writer. This is you trying to do your thing in the best capacity that you can, and you want to be able to create the picture in the minds of your readers. So you need the appropriate words to describe whatever it is you want to describe, so authentically your readers, your audience can understand. So it also goes to when you're speaking to this audience, when you're addressing them. You are addressing them, you're trying to create a scenario, you're trying to illustrate something. You want them to see what you're seeing, so your words needs to describe adequately what you intend for them to understand. Because one thing with communication, right, people can misinterpret what you say. So you want to be adequate, you want to be definitive and emphatic in the words and phrases that you use when you're trying to create a picture in the mind of your listener. Okay, so as creatives, it is important for you to know how to speak to the audience, how to let them understand the perspective you're coming from, how to let them know in definitive terms what you want them to understand by the descriptive words that you use. So your choice of words matters a lot. And then when you're trying to go from one idea to another, you need some certain phrases and words that helps you transition. So like I said, they're like bridges in your essay, they're like bridges in your speech, they're like bridges in your write-up. They are cues that help the reader, all right, interpret your ideas, that helps your listener understand where you're coming from and how you want them to see the scenario, the picture you're trying to create in their minds. They help carry your thoughts forward from one sentence to another and from one paragraph to another. All right, they are linked sentences and paragraphs together smoothly put so that there are no abrupt jumps or breaks between ideas or between thoughts, especially when you're trying to convey these ideas to your proposed, listening audience or viewers. Now, the important thing is, how do you use these transitional words and phrases? What kind of words would you consider as transitional words and phrases? All right, so here it is. Again, this particular, would I say, teaching class doesn't necessarily mean that you must apply it, but anything that gives you confidence in whatever space you find yourself is very important. So long as you can infuse that confidence in yourself when you're addressing a group of people, it is important for you to absorb it. It is important for you to apply it. See, words are it's like an ingredient, it's like a seasoning to whatever meal you're preparing. It gives a certain aroma to whoever is watching you or listening to you. They're able to perceive what you want them to see. They can perceive your thoughts. They can see your picture. They can be compelled to abruptly stay gravitated to you just because of your command of words. I'm not talking of command of English language, your words. And it is so important, to be honest with you, because you need people to be convinced. Words are meant to convince people of your thoughts and ideas. So it is important for you to learn various words to contextualize whatever it is you want your listening audience to contextualize. All right? You want them to see exactly the kind of picture or scenario you're painting to them. So now I'm going to start off with examples, especially if you want to learn how to use them as a professional in whatever capacity you want to apply them. You're free to do that. Okay, so you can use because is a transitional word, but is usually often used. So sometimes one can predict that you're trying to use that word. You can use consequently. You can use more so. You can use furthermore. These are transitional words and phrases that helps you connect your ideas, helps you connect your thoughts from one particular aspect of your speech to another. It's actually very important to see that aspect of that aspect of our expression. It's able to help you express yourself proportionately, adequately to your listening audience. So let me read out the sentence. All right. When good enough gets the job done, go for it. It's way better than wasting resources, or even worse, that's a transitional phrase there, doing nothing because you can't afford the complex solution. And remember, you can usually turn good enough to great later. All right, so that sentence, that particular paragraph doesn't necessarily mean anything, but you can see how transitional phrases and words are used to connect ideas and thoughts. That's basically what, this particular conversation we're having today is all about. So let's imagine these sentences without good transitional words, gluing all the thoughts together. If you are trying to glue your thoughts together and you don't have the proper transitional words to use, you find yourself stuttering. Sometimes no one can actually understand what you're trying to pass across to them. And I don't think anybody wants to be in that particular situation where they are confused as to what words to use or how to rightly contextualize their words, how to put things in the right perspective, in the right mannerism, so your listening audience understands precisely where you're coming from. And it's always important to realize that transitional words are like builders. They're pillars that holds your thoughts and ideas together, that helps you actually writing or talking. It helps you easily, move from one particular thought process to another. Okay, so here is also another word structure or phrase that you can use when you're trying to put your thoughts together. It's actually very important in terms of brevity and clarity. All right, so in order for you to put that together, you can use this particular example: lightning struck all night, as a result or resulting in broken poles and a town without electricity for 2 days. Lightning struck all night, which resulted to broken poles or resulting in broken poles and a town without electricity for 2 days. So lightning struck all night and it affected, the poles. Now, in order for you to put that thought together, you had to use which resulted or resulting. And again, another phrase was added to it. I'm sure we all know our adverbs and clauses and phrases. Those things are some of the things that helps us put our sentence structure together when we're trying to put our ideas all there. Now, the important thing is there is no meticulous or technical angle to this. There's no need to apply technicality. This is just for you as an individual to enable you properly express yourself wherever it is that you are. And if you intend to be a presenter either on radio or television, it is always important for you to have a group of these different transitional words in order for you to put your thoughts and ideas together, and for your listening audience to know that, okay, this person understands what they're talking about and they do know how to go about it. So what are the common words and phrases and the categories that they belong, especially when you are transitioning from one thought process to another? So you can use and, again, and then, besides, equally important, finally, further, furthermore, nor, next, lastly, what's more, moreover, in addition. These are words that links to one particular thought process to another, especially if you want to add. So for example, you're saying that while I was going to the market, I noticed that my right slipper, got caught on a particular tree frond, right? And while I was trying to do you see that phrase? And while I was trying to get my slipper off of that tree frond, I fell down, right? Moreover, I was warned at home not to wear that slipper, that I may not comfortably walk on the road while I am heading to the market. So do you see how I'm able to contextualize and add and join my phrases together to make my thoughts clearly to you who is listening to me? Okay, so it's just an example for you to understand what I mean. Now, transitional words, when you're trying to make comparisons, when you're trying to compare something and you need the right transitional words to use to adequately contextualize your comparison, okay? Whereas, right? But, yet, on the other hand, however, nevertheless, on the contrary, by the way, compared to, up against, balanced against, vis-a-vis, I'm sure we all know vis-a-vis, but, although, meanwhile. So let's start off with this. The federal government has disclosed that anyone who doesn't park their car properly on any major road will get their vehicles impounded. The federal government warned, the state government warned, and finally they disclosed that the tax or the fine that will be paid afterwards will not be something easy for any individual who is caught in that infraction. Do you see that? Now, that's basically the kind of example you can use for transitional words and linking your thoughts together, okay? So in order for you to prove your thoughts, let's just say I'm emphatically talking, I'm discussing with somebody, right? And I need to be emphatic and buttress my point. And I say, why did you do that? Oh, Because you thought I wouldn't know? Remember, because. You see that? For what precisely? What for? What for? That's a question. Why did you do that? What exactly is your excuse? What for? In other words, for the same reason, it is vital that you take your supplements to boost your immune system. If you avoid taking supplements, your immune system will be weak. It could eventually lead to you falling ill or making yourself prone to any flu that is viral. Do you understand? So transitional words and phrases, like I said, helps you contextualize your thoughts. They build your sentences. They give you the kind of strength that is required when you're addressing your audience. Okay? So sometimes you want to also talk in terms of putting time in context. You need transitional words that describes the duration. You could say, immediately I went to the market and he saw me in the market, or she saw me in the market. She screamed and I turned. I was surprised. Where is that scream coming from? And then just before anything could happen or before anyone could recall anything, somebody finally tapped my head to focus on the road. Finally tapped my head. Finally is a transitional word there, because while I was trying to see why this individual was screaming and why this person was screaming out my name or calling me in a market that is extremely so busy, somebody tapped my head to make me come back to the present time so that I don't get lost or somebody steals anything from me. So these are the words that we can use. In other words, in brief, like I said, as I have noted, as I disclosed while I was expressing myself, in the first instance, these are transitional words that you can use. If you want to emphasize your point, you want to put in place the point you're trying to make to your listening audience or to any other person who has the time to listen to you, you can say, definitely, the weather is extremely hot. Obviously, can't you see that? In fact, I was surprised. Yes, you're corroborating. Indeed, that is true. Well, in any case, it doesn't matter what we do. We must absolutely, positively, naturally, surprisingly, perennially, eternally, emphatically, unquestionably, without a doubt, certainly, undeniably, without a reservation, stay true to our beliefs. These are words that emphasizes your thoughts, emphasizes whatever it is you want to puncture, you want to stamp in the mind or in the brain, in the mind or the brain of anyone who is listening to you. So I think it's important for us to stop here. All right. But if you're trying to reel out points, you're giving out pointers when you're describing things, or you're trying to, let your audience understand where you're coming from. You can say, first of all, second, number two, third, so forth. Then, following this time around, at this point, afterwards, subsequently, consequently, you recall, previously this is what happened, simultaneously, and it ran concurrently. Therefore, hence, next, and then. These things show sequence. For example, all right, for instance, in this case, in another case, on this particular relation, to illustrate further, to demonstrate in this situation, these are common phrases that we can use for transitional words in linking our thoughts and putting our ideas together. I hope you were able to learn something. All right. Now, EstiQ Media, we do trainings for persons who are interested to become radio or television presenters. We can teach you the basic elements of presentation. We can also teach you the adequate way to confidently speak in public. The idea is not for you to want to sound intelligent to anybody. It is important you do that, because at the end of the day, what you have is what you have. You can't decide to always want to convince people of your capability or your capacity to deliver. It is your work that proves your worth. That's the honest truth. So the idea is for you to be able to convey your thoughts in the best way you can and ensure that your thoughts are not misconstrued. What you're saying is not misconstrued. It is properly understood and assimilated by your listening audience or your viewers, so that things are not taken out of context. That's the power of communicating properly. If you're able to communicate and people do not, take 10 or 5 different meanings of what you're saying. It means that you are using the right words that is understandable to your literate audience. At least they're literate enough to understand what you're saying. All right, so I like you to like this channel. All right, and if you haven't done that, please subscribe, share, all right, make recommendations too. And like I told you, we're on Spotify as well as on the website too, which is www.esticmedia.com. So make an appointment. Let's work together. Let's make things work. That's the only way we can do it. All right, have yourself an amazing day. See you next time.